Hey everyone, welcome back to part 2 of the Model 3 Challenge. So Steven just finished the Laguna Seca event, so the final event for the Model 3 Challenge. So he's got some pretty exciting results that we'll share with you later on, but we wanted to conclude what we left out of part 1. That video got kind of long. So I'll recap a little bit on the things that we covered on the Model 3 Challenge in part 1. So we did discuss the kind of the power limiting. So I think, we'll review a few things. So we discussed power limiting, we discussed suspension, and, brakes being open or whatever. So one of the requirements was that you had to get the cooling party controller.
Yes.
Right? And the purpose of that was to
limit the power of all trim levels of the Model 3 so that they're on a level playing field.
Level playing field. So, and one of the reasons for that also is, if you have a long range, you have a performance, you have a rear wheel drive, like an SR Plus, for example, that they could all be on a level playing field. What was the power cap? Was it 220?
220 kilowatts.
So 220
like 300
kilowatts.
horsepower, thereabouts, yeah, at peak.
And I've heard some rumors, it's pretty funny. Some people are like, oh, it's like the same thing as putting a brick behind the throttle or something, and that is not how it works.
Yeah, a little different.
It's a little bit different. It's not like that. So if you could kind of maybe explain just briefly what they do in regards to, how they're attaching the device. And
yeah, so the device is attached to the CAN bus at the top of the battery pack. So it's where the controls are on the top of the pack. It's actually limiting the current that is coming out of the pack.
Exactly.
So it's not at the motor level or at the inverter level, it's at the pack level. It's limiting the current coming out. So you can buy, if you're on a performance model, you can bias all the power to the rear and have all 220 kilowatts at the rear, or it's not quite that much, but you can have it in the rear if you want to, but you might overheat your rear motor faster. So it was better overall if you just have a 50-50 balance.
Interesting. So that was not a stipulation in the rule book that you had to have the power distribution a certain way.
No, you could have it
because it was, if there's a rear wheel drive or SR Plus.
Yeah, you would probably put yourself at a disadvantage if you ran too much rear wheel drive because the rear motor will overheat faster.
Gotcha.
Just like it would when you're at full power. Because
Gotcha.
Really the rear motor would almost be at full power.
I understand. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So it's also kind of interesting that was not the original function of that device. Originally, the device was for the
just to cool the pack.
To cool the pack, so you guys could take manual control of the cooling systems, right, in the car.
Yeah.
When you're supercharging, so the older models.
Right. One of the primary users, or I guess who would get the most out of it would be someone that didn't have a performance model.
Didn't have track mode.
Right. Basically. So long range or rear wheel drive cars get the most out of that module because they don't have the ability to put the car into track mode. And the benefit you get out of track mode is it puts all the cooling systems on before you go out there. So as soon as you get done charging, you can start cooling down the pack before you go out on track. If you don't have a performance model, you can't do that. You're just you're stuck with the battery at its thermal limit already from charging. There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do. You just got to wait for time to take its
exactly.
course.
So if you're your best lap of the day is always going to be the first session when the pack is cool.
Yep.
If
Understood.
You happen to start the day at 100%.
Right. And then I think like on our older ones, you could even overclock or turn on the cooling systems while you're supercharging. So it does slow down. Didn't it work that way? Where it would slow down the rate of charge, but you could keep the pack temps lower.
If you had a performance model, the only benefit you really got out of having the cooling party was to be able to cool while charging.
While charging. Okay, got it.
And it's just easier.
So then how exactly would you guys turn on the cooling party controller?
So we just go into the controls menu and put it in creep mode.
Creep mode. Okay, so creep mode is how you would essentially act. That was the switch for the CPC.
Right. Yeah. And the thought behind that, they use that because hardly anybody uses creep mode.
Right.
So that's the switch.
Yeah, any seasoned Tesla owner should be using hold
mode. Yeah.
So it's funny when we get people over here and they're still doing the whole like ice car thing, you know? It's like creep, creep, creep.
Yeah, we don't even know how to drive those.
We cannot. Like pulling it up on the alignment rack and we're like, it's not stopping.
Yeah.
It's not stopping. So, all right. So that was, CPC, the way that they restrict the power. We also discussed the other requirement is that you either have MPP suspension, coilovers, dampers specifically, or OEM, or an MPP upper control arm, or OEM.
Right.
Outside of that, your alignment, your rear camber arms, tow arms, traction, that's all open. Brakes are open.
Yep.
So that's pretty much it. It's actually a very lenient spec.
I do think the brake pad they just want you to have a high performance pad, obviously, for the challenge. I mean, if you have stock pads going out there, you're going to have problems.
Right.
For safety reasons, yeah, you need to have a high temperature pad.
Yeah, so I think when I reviewed the rules, it did indicate a maximum temperature or something, but I don't know if that really.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think that was
definitely not
that
a rule that was
enforced per se. So I think that just covers what we went over in part one. So now I want to discuss some of the other things. So there's a couple other limitations like aero. I don't recall if we discussed,
So yeah, there's aero. There's some penalties if you do use aero. There's also everyone. There's the starting state of charge for everyone needs to be at 90% or less.
Right.
Just so no one has an unfair advantage.
So for aero, you were saying that you can have a front splitter, but you cannot have tunnels or a diffuser, so it basically cannot go all the way under.
The way I understood it is that really it would just be a flat splitter. So, and then the tunnels would be like a diffuser underneath that would increase downforce quite a bit. They didn't want anyone using that sort of. I don't think anybody has that kind of stuff anyway for a Model 3, but
we're not that serious yet.
Yeah. But if you did have any sort of front aero, you took a 5% penalty on your state of charge at the beginning of a race. So just make sure you didn't charge to 90 or at 85.
You had to be at 85, exactly. So
and that would slow you down maybe a little bit at the end of the race.
And then what about wing? Was there any penalty for having a wing?
No.
Oh, interesting.
The thought process is that if you're adding a wing on the back, and not anything on the front, the balance of the car isn't going to be as good as it could be.
Okay.
So you could be slowing yourself down in certain corners, maybe making yourself better in others. But as far as to, what the actual gain was, no one really knows. But
okay.
This rule could change in the future.
We're going to see what happens. We're going to discuss kind of what your experience was at the event and at Laguna and all that. And we'll see if
the fastest cars were running no aero.
So. No aero. Yeah. That I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So I think we discussed this maybe in your Willow Springs results video, but not in the Model 3 Challenge video. So we'll just kind of reiterate it. But when you let's just go over. Okay, so how many sessions or races were there? There was qualifying.
Right, qualifying and 4 races.
And 4 races.
Well, okay.
And you had a practice.
There was a practice, qualifying, and 4 races.
Yeah. And 4 races. Okay. So when if you qualified first, you got like 50 points or something, right?
Yeah, it was a fair amount of points.
You got a bunch of points, in qualifying. Then in doing so, did you get a weight penalty in qualifying?
Yes. So
every time.
Every qualifying or race, first and second place finishers got weight penalties or rewards, actually. They call it reward weight.
They call it reward weight.
So you're rewarded with weight.
With the weight.
Yeah, exactly. So first place gets 50, second place gets 25 added, which is basically two bags and 1 bag.
But then it caps out at 200 pounds.
Yes.
So, you're not going to continually get it and exceed 200 pounds. Once you cap, once you get to 200, you're done.
Yeah, it was definitely noticeable at 200 pounds. that happened to me at Streets of Willow.
Plus the other hidden weight that you had that you forgot about.
Yes, but oh well, that was my fault.
So, all right, so that covers kind of, there's a weight penalty. Oh, and then there's a reverse gridding thing.
Right, yeah, so in addition to the weight, if you got first, that puts, so originally it was the top 5 finishers got reversed for Streets of Willow. For Laguna, they changed it to top 3. So,
oh, interesting. Okay.
If you were first, you got put down to 3rd. Second, stayed in 2nd.
So kind of some interesting things that they did to increase.
It was just to increase, passing and opportunity for passing, and keep it interesting for people to watch too.
Right, which leads me to my next question, or next point was the detection zones.
Right,
is what they called them. So exactly how did that work? At Laguna, you had 2 detection zones at Laguna. Do you remember after what turns they were?
The first one was in between 4 and 5.
Okay.
So turn 4 is a pretty gentle right-hand corner, pretty high speed. So the goal was to get as close to the car in front of you as possible right after that corner. And then after turn 5, we still don't pass until after turn 6. Okay. So basically it's between 4 and 5. We make the turn up 5, go up the hill, past the left kink, which is turn 6, which is a really high speed, high G load corner because the car gets, it has a lot of load under it right there. And so right after that corner, that's where the zone is. That you either get a blue flag to let the car behind you pass because they were close enough in the detection zone, and you get the pass there before the corkscrew. And so coming into the brake zone with the corkscrew, you should already be past that car.
Gotcha. And how do they communicate that to you? Because I know that was interesting when I was on site.
Right. So at Streets of Willow, it was done by flags only.
Right.
It was a challenge. One of the zones was a little less visible to the people looking for it, so it was hard. So for Laguna, they went for we were actually on a phone call.
Right. So it was a Google.
It was a Google Meets call. So everyone was on the call. Everyone's muted except for Chris.
Right.
Chris was, telling everyone.
It was just Bluetooth.
Yeah, exactly. We just turned our volume up and we could hear, and it worked fairly well.
It was. I could hear it in the footage.
Yeah.
That you shared, I think, from your in-car footage or something. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it worked. My cell service wasn't great there, so there was a couple spots it would cut out, and it did have an effect on me at one point in the race where I missed a call.
At a detection zone?
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Shoot.
It was kind of. It just happened. I mean, there's still room for improvement. In the future, it'd be great to have radios. That would probably work better. But yeah, it was called out through that. And also flags. And so that was the first detection zone, and the second detection zone was after turn 9, which is, at the bottom of the hill, coming down from corkscrew through the left-hand corner.
I was shooting you guys right there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was a detection zone.
Yeah, so after that left-hand sweeping corner,
right,
it's all downhill. Right. That's the zone right there. So basically, you want to fly down that as fast as possible to try to close the gap.
I don't recall how or where the guys were.
They were on the inside of the track. So you were on the outside.
I was on the outside.
They were on
shooting.
The inside.
Yeah.
So they were looking at you, basically.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Hopefully I got some decent shots of you guys dropping down the corkscrew there, and I'll try to edit those and share those.
And so if you were close enough there, you go through turn 10 and then turn 11 onto the straight, on the front straight. That's where the pass is initiated there.
Okay, interesting. Very good.
Yeah.
So, I think, there was one unfortunate incident that happened at the track on Saturday. It must have been Saturday. Yeah, Saturday was the last. Yeah, so it happened Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
So Model 3 Challenge Laguna was a Friday, Saturday event. So Saturday, there was a car that sadly caught on fire there. Yeah. And it kind of impacted. I don't know if you'll find a lot of footage on it. I think out of just
There is, even
there's
though people weren't
some-
supposed to, there was quite a bit of footage of it, of that car burning to the ground, and that did affect the schedule for the rest of the day. Unfortunately, a lot of our races were cut short.
We lost a bit of time,
Yeah.
quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
They could not get the fire to go out.
Yeah.
So sadly, it was just, they had to let it burn all the way down until the fire trucks finally come on. Anyway, point being that typically you had on Friday, how many laps did you guys have on Friday?
It should have been a 7-lap race, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
But because of the lost time, I think not just the Model 3 Challenge, right? Did other sessions get cut short?
I mean, I'm not sure.
Okay, got it. But your sessions,
especially the last race, got cut short because we were the last event in the day.
That's right.
And they said no.
Yeah, they had to do awards and
yeah,
all that type of stuff. So you were telling me that you only got like 4 laps. It was almost half.
Yeah.
Of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a bummer for sure. I mean, I wish I would have had more opportunity to pass, but it is what it is.
So tell me about the event though, in terms of, how you did, what was going on in your head, how was the car working? I think, so Model 3 Challenge, I'm just kind of reviewing my notes right here. The one thing that would be really great to have is a Spec Tire. I think that was one thing that we talked about before, that's the only real thing that's lacking, that's like a big variable. And so hopefully if there's a tire sponsor out there, they'll reach out to us. We can put you guys in touch with Chris Hatch. But definitely I think the Model 3 Challenge can really benefit from a tire sponsor. The tire limitations are a 285 width and a 200 tread wear tire minimum.
Yeah, minimum tread wear.
Minimum 200 tread wear. So,
and there was all types out there.
So there were guys running on different tires. There was guys running on CRSs. There was guys running on AL52s. One guy was running on
the Goodyear
threes.
Car threes.
Yeah, the threes.
Which is a 220 tread wear, so it's a little
220.
slower.
Right. So that's another one.
Yeah, RE71 is popular.
RE71 RS was a big popular one. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty good stuff. I want to hear about the actual event and how you liked it. I thought Gridlife, it was the first Gridlife event I've been to. I guess this is the first year that they actually had West Coast events. So they had one at Streets of Willow. And then this one at Laguna was an actual festival. So it was a 3-day event. They had a concert.
Well, the festival was pretty much 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Which same was our event was 2 days basically too.
Right. So none of us were there Sunday.
Right.
But man, it was amazing. It was basically like a pre-SEMA reunion for me because there were so many people that kind of met and congregated for this event because it was such a huge event at Laguna after they've repaved the track. So everybody wanted to get out there, run that smooth pavement, see what kind of times.
It was nice. Yeah.
How much faster do you think that new surface is? 3 seconds, 4 seconds a lap?
I mean, from people that are more familiar with the track than me, then I've heard about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Depending on the car.
Right. So tell me about, I guess, kind of how things went. So Friday qualifying, how'd you do?
Qualifying it wasn't great for me. That was one of the things that got cut short because of the fog that day. Friday we got.
That's right.
Everything was pushed back because of fog.
Oh my gosh, that's right. That's why I didn't rush to get there.
Yeah, so our practice was combined with one of the time attack groups.
Okay.
We were actually all mixed up within. It was like 3 Teslas per group that got mixed in there. So that was our practice. We were mixed in with all the ICE cars. Then qualifying. We only had 4 laps. On the lap that I was going for, my push lap, which was the last lap in my last chance, I ran into traffic on turn 10. So I lost a good amount of my time.
Because it was a mixed session.
No, I didn't give it was my own fault. I didn't give enough gap in the qualifying.
Oh, I see.
And I ended up catching the car in front of me, and my own fault. But
so
I didn't qualify as good as I wanted to.
Oh, so you didn't qualify in the top 3.
I was third.
You were third. Okay.
Um,
So you graded
I
first
think I was third. Yeah, so I graded first in the race. Yeah.
in the first race, yeah.
Yeah.
And then do you
I
recall?
would have preferred to qualify first, but oh well.
You know.
I don't even know if I could have. I mean, I was up against Drew and Tony, so they were flying too.
So you know,
I think I could have been closer to them, but I don't know if I would have beat them. I mean, no one knows. But
yeah, really the 2 biggest contenders in the event. I mean, even Jesse too, and Rudy. I mean, all of them. They were all like,
yeah, we're
in
all
terms
right
of
there.
points,
Yeah.
it was all right there. And again, just to remind you guys that it's not based off of. It's not like time attack. It's not based off of your fastest 1 lap, your PB. It's based off of a cumulative points.
I mean, it is a mixture. I mean, you have the qualifying matters, so basically qualifying is a time attack. If you win qualifying, you get points.
Yep, and a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of points.
That one you get the most points if you qualify. If you qualify well, that's the biggest jump in points that you get out of all of them, I think.
And then everything else is position based, where you finish in the grid. You know, when you pass the finish line.
On the
In the actual races.
Right. Yep.
So
at
time
the finish
does not
line.
matter.
Time does not matter. Yeah. It's essentially your total time for all laps, right? I mean, it's still accumulative.
Yes.
Right.
But at the end of a race, where the last, detection zone is, that can be kind of where the upset is. Because you can finish past the finish line.
I see what you're saying.
But if that person was already in the detection zone,
and then they get allowed to pass,
they technically won because they should have passed.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so it's not quite like a race, so there's a lot of things you got to think about. Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember race 1? How you did?
Race 1, it went well for me. I'm pretty sure Drew ended up passing me. He ended up getting first, and I got second. I believe Tony was having car issues early on. I think he was just smashing curbs like crazy, and he was basically causing his car to think it was being crashed. So it was limiting power.
And that happened to a few of the guys too, where they were dropping down.
Yeah, it wasn't something we were
for example,
familiar with because of how much G-forces the cars get on the corkscrew laterally, like up and down. That's not something we're used to.
Vertically.
Vertically, yeah, sorry,
right.
Vertically.
So you'll see if there is any footage from like Gridlife or any of the other videographers out there, and you see like hazard lights flashing.
Yeah, that means our car went into like a semi-limp mode.
Right.
In my case, when it happened to me, that my car was 3 seconds fast or slower.
Right. So what happens in limp mode? Let's tell people what.
Basically, you lose all track mode functions. I believe the party box is still on, but
You mean the cooling or party box?
Cooling party, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so
the power is limited even further for whatever reason. We haven't figured out quite why. It could just be that the power is coming on slower, like chill mode.
Right.
But it was certainly slower because on straightaways, everyone was catching me.
So I think that's the next task for MPP, for Sasha, is to figure out how to make it so that can't happen in a race.
That would be nice, yeah.
Right? If there's a way to override the system somehow.
Yeah.
So I was saying that major contenders were, so you have Drew from Martian Wheels, I think the founder of Martian Wheels. Then you have Tony Barber. These two gentlemen are extremely seasoned racers.
Tony is Turn
In Concepts.
Is
that his?
Yeah.
And then you have several amateurs like Steven. There was Rudy. You had our friend Morgan there. There's another gentleman, Mo, who joined in. This car was super slammed. It looked slammed. He was running 285s on 20-inch wheels.
Yeah.
Car looked dope.
And Jesse from MPP.
And then Jesse running an SR Plus. Are we missing anybody?
There was Seth.
Oh yeah, Seth.
Which he works for Tesla.
Yeah, so Seth's with Tesla, and he also ran an SR Plus.
Yeah.
And there was Dave.
Dave.
So Dave had that. There was something that happened to Dave.
David, yeah.
Yeah, David. And I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we covered everybody.
But I think the main guys, it was like 5 guys that were really kind of going through that we were looking at. It was Drew, Tony, Steven, Rudy, and Jesse.
Yeah.
And Tony was actually running also, he was racing basically doubles. He was running time attack at Gridlife and Model 3 Challenge. So interestingly enough, because he was running time attack, he was limited to, I believe, a 255 width tire.
Right.
So he was not running as wide a tire as the rest of the guys.
So he was still flying.
And he was flying.
Yeah. You could tell that his car was definitely slowing down considerably after the first few laps because those tires were just not happening.
Off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. So, real quickly, I will say that when Tony jumped to time attack racing with like all the ice cars, he was able to run full power, so he didn't have to run power limitations. Right. And I think Tony you'd have to check race here. I think Tony got into the 36s.
36.6, I think, is what he did.
Yeah. So fast.
Yes.
I mean, on 255s, and I don't know exactly what.
I think there's definitely a bigger time gap at Laguna than there was at Streets of Willow with full power, just because of the massive hills we had to climb. I think there is a huge benefit to having full power, how much time you gain going up the hill.
At Laguna.
Yeah, at Laguna.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't know. I think Tony opted. He didn't run one race, I think, because of that delay that we might have had on Saturday. So he skipped one of the races in the Model 3 Challenge, and he ran time attack.
Yeah,
something happened,
I don't know
or he
why.
didn't charge or whatever.
I don't know why that happened. Yeah.
Laguna did have superchargers on site, so that was pretty cool. So pretty much, and I don't remember. I think what we'll end up doing is just looking up on Race Hero and sharing who won each individual race. It's been about 2 weeks now since it happened. Everything's kind of a blur.
Yeah, we'll probably just publish the Model 3 Challenge results.
Yeah, we'll share the results with you, screenshots or whatever.
Because definitely what happened to me in my second race was that's when I had the issue of the car going into the.
So you went to limp mode in second race?
The second race, I believe it was the second race. Yeah.
And then race,
which was the morning.
That was
the second day,
Saturday morning.
Yeah. Yeah. So that happened to me, and that was also when I was scrambling to try to figure out what was happening to the car, and I missed some call outs for people to pass me. And so I finished third, but I was actually bumped down to fifth because of the passing rules. Yeah, so that really hurt my event for sure. But it is what it is. And to remedy the system thinking I was in a crash, we added more bump stop packers to my rear shocks.
At the event?
Yeah, at the event. Yeah.
Oh, I remember that. So how many were you running? 7 or more than 7? You went to
7.
Yeah, 7
7
is what you were.
So basically a stack of stackers or packers that much, in the rear shock to engage bump stop sooner, so the bottom of the car wasn't crashing down on the corkscrew, causing the car to think it was in a crash. And I didn't have the problem after that. And I was probably not quite sending it as hard after that either, just because I did not want that to happen.
Okay, so let's get into kind of how things summed up. I know that it was pretty tight. There was, I remember. So by the end of race 3, I think there was only a 10-point delta between you and Drew.
Right, it was really close points.
It was really close. Really close. So who won race 3? Did you win race 3?
So
I think you
race
won.
3 was determining the series, basically, the series standings. But I believe Drew would have won the Laguna race regardless at race 3.
Okay.
Because basically he basically got first the whole event, so he won Laguna basically. No problem.
Okay.
That would have only determined the series results. So basically, race 4 we were racing for the series results, and there was a 10-point gap for that. Yeah.
Yep. So I think up until that point, Jesse was still winning the series.
Right.
And then somewhere maybe by race 3, everything changed.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. And so let's talk about race 4, the last race. I mean, it was a beautiful time of day. It was like sunset.
Race 3 was interesting too because I had to claw my way up from 5th place. So it was fun because I started 5th.
That's right.
Because I finished 5th, or I was pushed back to 5th because of the race 2 problems.
Oh, I remember race 3. Sasha ended up he had a garage for Kells, and above the garage, he ended up renting
Sweet.
a suite.
Yeah, yeah.
A suite. And that suite basically could see two sides. You could basically see I don't know. You could see two sides of the track.
You can see turn 10 and the front stretch.
And the front stretch. So I was literally running, and your folks were in the suite too. Your mom was so cool. She was like opening the door for me because I was literally like, Steven's coming down, and I'm like shooting this side, and then I have to run through the suite to get to the straight. So I would literally run through. I almost rammed my camera lens into the window, the glass one time. So your mom was cool enough, like a couple times. She saw me having to go. She opened the door so I could get through. Because these guys were smashing. I mean, they were coming through so fast. And yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, race 3 was fun because I had to pass 3 cars.
Yeah, we were watching, and then the TV was behind. It was delayed. So
yeah, like 10 seconds.
Yeah, it was like way delayed. But yeah, I was really going like, come on. And it was, I almost felt like some guys were cool. They were like, we need to let Steven get in front of us, like.
Oh yeah, definitely one of them.
There were guys that were just like,
yeah,
Steven needs to get in this thing.
Pretty good. Too.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think that was the most exciting race for me to watch because you had to climb all the way up. And then you did get all the way up, and I think you were right up on Drew.
Yeah, I wasn't that close. And again, because our races were cut short,
You didn't have enough laps to.
No. And I know Drew was taking it easy too because he was so out front. Like he didn't need to risk anything. He just, So it allowed me to get closer. But I think if he was sending it the whole time, I would have never had a chance to get close.
Got it.
But he was up in chill mode up there once he was at the front.
Race 4. Oh, because Drew won, you had gridded in front of Drew.
Yes. Yeah, I gridded first for race 4. Yeah.
And so that was pretty interesting because that was a real cat and mouse race, I think, between you.
No, I would have gridded second.
Right.
Rudy started first.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But you did grid in front of Drew.
Yeah.
So it was Rudy, Steven, Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the event where I was shooting kind of on the outside of the corkscrew, shooting down. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty neat, man.
That was fun.
You guys
I wish we had more laps, man. It would have been a blast to just chase him down more, just for longer. Like it would have been fun.
You guys were battling.
Yeah.
And I saw you starting to slide too.
Oh yeah.
You were pushing it in the corner.
The track conditions were definitely not great because we were like right after the drift.
After the drifting.
Yeah, the drifting.
That was all bad.
So we had a lot of excess rubber on the track that just didn't. You would think it would be more grippy, but it's not. It's just marbles.
Marbles. Yeah.
But yeah, I was pushing, and yeah, it cost me time for sure.
I did notice that.
It was cool to watch, though.
It was cool to watch. We saw just one.
I just did it for the camera.
Just for the camera. We saw a little bit of drone footage, I think, on Gridlife's Instagram page or something like that, or Model 3 Challenge page. So maybe you guys can check that out. But that was really cool seeing you and Drew. Mm-hmm. It was like a really short clip. It was maybe like 5 to 10 seconds or something like that. But it was awesome. It was really cool to see. The two fastest guys, no aero, just stock body Model 3s like mine behind us, and just ripping through. It was very interesting that, when you're there listening to all these crazy ice cars ripping on the track all day, and then the Model 3 Challenge comes up, and it's like dead silent.
It gives everyone's ears a rest.
Yeah, and that's when they did all the advertisements and stuff too. So you got down to the last race. I know there was, some interesting stuff because it was real neck to neck. I mean,
yeah, it was super close. I think everyone agrees that next time, we need to have a more definitive way of knowing how close somebody is, because basically it's a 20-meter gap, but if you're at 20.1 or 19.9, who can say that it's actually, that different? You don't know. So we need an actual time loop, so we can do it based on a time distance. So like 0.3 of a second. If you're within 0.3 of a second, you get the pass or something like that, rather than a distance measurement.
Yeah, distance is hard. Plus, the angle at which you're looking.
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult, because we did see some like screenshots of video footage, and I mean, you can't tell exactly.
No.
What about proximity sensors?
I don't know if that's possible, but
and then it beeps, beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, who knows?
And then you can pass. You don't even need the radio.
That would be cool. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That could work. That'd be genius.
Yeah. It's definitely hard when there's really close competitors, because that's when it's like, man, the guys that have, like, props to Chris Hatch that has to make these calls, because like it's really hard to judge just by cones, and someone's got to make the call, and is what it is.
I think I figured it out, dude. Literally, proximity sensors that are in the older Model 3s.
Oh, okay.
Which I think all of them
Yeah.
that were in the race were older Model 3s. And if Sasha can like hack that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right? And just increase it, the proximity sensor, so that when you come up on it, it'll know.
That'd be dope.
So, okay. Tell me what happened, dude. I know that.
So yeah, lap 4, or maybe lap 3. I think Drew got close enough to pass me, and I did all I could to. I mean, I was pretty much staying with him the whole time. It just wasn't close enough to get the pass on
the last detection zone. I know.
And unfortunately, we only had 4 laps to do it too. So who's to
you can see he's saved this 4 laps thing like multiple
4
times.
laps. 4 laps.
4 laps, killed it.
Yeah.
Needed 7 laps.
Yeah.
9 is better. 9, but
yeah.
So Drew won.
Yep. Congrats to Drew.
Congrats
he definitely
to Drew.
deserved it. He was fast. It was hard to keep up for sure. Yeah, but it was fun to chase him. I got all the rubber on the front of my hood to prove it.
I bet. What was the difference in I guess?
I mean, at the last race, we were 1/10 of a second apart on our fastest lap times.
Yeah, it was crazy fast. Yeah. And I think you guys were all in basically the fastest these guys ran with power limited on a performance Model 3. You guys were in the 41s.
Yeah, we were in 41s. Drew did like a 41 flat sometime earlier in the day when the track was better. That our last series was at 5 o'clock.
Awards was at maybe around there.
We were running
4:45, something like that.
He was at a 41.5. I was at a 41.6. Like we were right there.
Yep. And again, full power car, Model 3 with wider tires, let's say not limited by like time attack rules or whatever. I mean, these cars.
I would think the car could hit a 35. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think. Yeah. Especially with aero, it should be able to do that. Yeah.
And Tony didn't even have aero, and he was 36s with 255.
He has worse than no aero because his car is crumpled in the back. So I'm sure that's a little bit of an effect as far as drag. And a little tiny tire.
Yeah. Pretty small tire, man. A 255, geez, on a 40 whatever 200-pound car. I don't know if we mentioned that in the first video, but you did have a weight requirement also for the cars.
Yeah,
so you had to be at 4,200 pounds with driver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I guess that's it, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
so finished the series in second place. Drew got first.
The whole series. Only ran 2 of 3 events in the series, but same as Drew.
Yeah.
Drew only ran 2 out of 3. Not quite sure exactly how that works. Like, how do they like drop?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Or is it an average or something? I have no idea. So, that's something that might be for another time or next year. We'll get more into how the points work. We'll see how this thing evolves. I am excited. I do hope that this continues. I hope that it will kind of grow. I think that we need to really focus on reducing the cost of consumables, getting maybe getting a Spec Tire in there. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions on how we can get more people to join in a challenge, or what would be interesting to you to join like a spec race. Please share that in the comments below. We will share a link to Steven's channel somewhere up here. We'll share the Model 3 challenge. We'll share links to whatever we can. The rule book in the description as well. If you guys need any Mountain Pass Performance parts, please reach out to us. We'll put a link to all the Mountain Pass Performance parts on our website down below. Steven's been just a huge asset to us in so many ways. He does have two more events. So he's got Turn 8 Time Attack, Thunder Hill, and then the final one for Turn 8.
No.
Well, so Turn 8 Thunder Hill Time Attack.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We're gonna, share the results of that race once he finishes that, and then we're gonna also share the final race, which is gonna be in December.
Yep.
And then that kind of concludes you for the year, right?
Yep.
And then, like I said once before, he is accepting donations so that he can get a car that has under 80,000. I don't even know how many miles you have on your car.
90 now, yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah.
He needs a new car, guys. We're gonna definitely start a GoFundMe account for a Highland.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll get here by, I don't even know, Q2.
Yeah.
I hope Q2. That would be neat. So again, guys, we appreciate your support. Model 3 Challenge Mountain Pass, Sasha, Chris, all the guys who were involved, all of our buddies. It was such a fun time at Laguna.
Yeah, it was good.
It was
definitely fun.
It was great. It was great. We appreciate everybody. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you haven't checked out our Patreon account, please do so. Patreon.com/ZevCentric. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.